With Mick, Mick was the last person I coached on his last like full year on tour, the year that the shark incident happened at J Bay,
Right.
um, which was wild.
Yeah, what was that like?
Oh, I mean, it was like it's like time stood still. Really, I was standing with a bunch of the Aussies, and we were watching the final go down, and yeah, it just obviously I don't know, coming from South Oz and sort of growing up around like annual fatalities, you do become a little bit less sensitive to the whole shark thing. Like, I was never too bothered with sharks. Like, I'd take guys down there for photo trips and they'd shit themselves the whole time. And I was like pretty comfortable in the water. And, you know, but yeah, that was like, I thought he was in the shark's jaws because like the wave came between and we couldn't see him. And I was just like, kind of in my head was like, you're going to survive, like just survive. And it wasn't until like a minute later he climbed on the back of the ski and they zoomed in on him that, everyone realized that he was not bitten. And so it was the wildest, like, minute. And then the preceding Arvo, I think like him and Adriano were in the title. Adriano won the world title that year and they were in the title race together. And Adriano was at the airport about to fly. He turned around and drove back. Everyone ended up at our place, and it was sort of this surreal, like wake type feeling for a person that was there.
Whoa.
Like it was just such a insane, odd. Everyone was there. It was like, I don't know if the whole tour has ever been together like that ever. It was like they nearly could have lost one of the most iconic guys, from the tour. And so like, yeah, everyone was there. Kelly was there, as I said, Adriano, who was, in this gnarly battle with Mick for the world title. He drove all the way back from PE just to like give him a hug. And so it was such a surreal moment. And yeah, such a crazy, that was my first event too. And even to like, I haven't even talked about like how I could help Mick. Mick won the J Bay event the year before. And so when Uncle Phil, who had been coaching him for years, sort of called me and said, hey, we've spoken and Mick is interested in you working with him for the rest of this year. I was like, how am I going to add any value to the guy that's won J? He's won two world titles or three at that time, and he's won J Bay the year before. And I ended up, because you can watch all the heats now online from previous years, I just like watched every heat start to finish of his like when he, his road to winning. And I just noticed one thing with him, which was, random, was like he's obviously got that high line sort of pump, drops down to a huge wrap, and that was Mick's turnout there, was like that big open face wrap. But then he'd go up and sort of stab the lip and not throw a heap of spray. And when I was watching other guys like Andy, they would like hit the lip and sort of blow fins.
Mm.
And so like that was literally like the thing I rocked up with. I sort of said, hey, I've watched all your heats. This is what I've identified. And he was like stoked. He was like, fuck yeah, that's something to work on. Like, let's get after that. And it was just like, I mean, you couldn't coach a better person, really. Like someone like Mick, with the like his path to his world titles and his the probably the challenges that he's had in his life. Like he was the sort of guy, I think like the first conversation we had was like, no matter what you tell me, I'll never blame you for losing a heat. He goes, I've got you on board because I'd like trust your judgment, and you just tell me what you see and then I'll filter that information and take it out. And that was just such a great thing for someone to say to a coach that was pretty nervous inside. Because it meant that I didn't have to walk around on eggshells. I could just be myself and, just give him the stuff that I was seeing. And so like, I wasn't working with Mick on like, technique or any of that stuff. It was more just like, I was just a trusted sounding board in his corner, really, that, watched the waves intently for an hour before he paddled out and said, right, I've timed the sets. There's been 6 opportunities up here. There's been 4 down there. And then he's like, sweet, I'll be able to work my priority. And I know that I can sit up there and I'm going to have 3 chances to get 2 8s, and that was all someone like Mick needed. he'd go out there and essentially do it. But yeah, that was just an insane opportunity, something I'm so grateful for. And yeah, he didn't get the world title, but it was still like a amazing year, on the road with him.
Ain't that swell with Jed and Vaughn.
Oh, those guys are back!